Welcome everyone to another webinar in the UNLV Office of Online Education Best Practices series. Today we will address how to prepare for a new semester. I am Sue Armitage. I'll be moderating today. The presenters will be Yvette Aki, WebCampus Administrator, Sheila Bach, Assistant Professor of the Interdisciplinary Degree Program, and Michael Wilder, Instructor, School of Journalism and Media Studies, but he's also our Online Education Instructional Designer. Together, our focus will be on technical, pedagogical, and instructional practices that instructors can use to get their existing courses ready for a new semester. Our objectives are to provide you with these tools and approaches for preparing to teach online. And your participation is invited. Please participate with us. Let us know if there are any technical difficulties. WebEx is new to us, so there might be some transitions that don't go so smoothly. You are welcome to type into the chat box, or as I see, many of you have your headsets on and are speaking. So if you are speaking when others are, you might like to mute your microphone. Down in the participants panel on the right side, you can click and turn your microphone off. Thanks. Our first presenter is Yvette Aki. As the WebCampus Administrator, Yvette knows the application thoroughly, and she's an experienced and very valuable troubleshooter. She just helped me a couple of minutes ago, as usual, so thank you, Yvette. So please welcome Yvette, and let's hear what you have to say about using WebCampus's tools really effectively.
Okay. So I'm going to go through a live demo. So Michael's going to assist me and share Firefox. And I'll go over a couple of tools that might help you in preparing for the new semester. So one option is your course copy, and then the other option will be the date management tool. Can everybody see my Firefox okay?
Yes. Yes.
So let me just refresh this page and change the title. So let's pretend that this is my spring 2014 class, and I want to copy materials from this course to my brand new summer 2014 section. And also after my demo, we'll have a slide with tip sheet links for instructions on how to do everything that I'm showing you. So in order to copy a section, you want to be in the section that has the materials that you want to copy. So I'm going into my spring course, which has a black menu.
Ooh. Yeah.
So let me change that real quick because I don't want that to come over. So it's teaching style. It's not coming up. I can't see anything. Bear with me.
Sue, I think we can hear you too. Somebody, if you could mute whoever is microphone is on.
Okay. Not even that. So under your control panel in the left-hand side, right here in the navigation menu, you'll see packages and utilities.
Kevin, can you see the screen at this point?
No.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I'm going to move it. I'm going to move it back. Are you seeing it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Leave it there.
Thank you, Alicia.
Yes. Okay. Oh, let me see my 2020 vision.
Yeah.
Okay. So here on the left-hand side, you'll see packages and utilities. So if you want to click on that, that will expand the menu options, and you'll be doing a course copy. So you just click on course copy. You're going to copy into an existing course. And to select which course you want to transfer the materials to, you'll just click Browse. And a list of all the courses that you have instructor access to will show up in this list. So I want to copy it to my summer section. I simply select it and then hit Submit. And that'll put that in the course ID in this little box. Now with course copy, you can choose to select all materials. In this new version of WebCampus, you can also uncheck anything you do not want to come over to your new course.
Yvette, can I ask real quickly, is there anything in particular you think that instructors might want to select?
In particular, you want to look at this discussion board option. I would suggest changing it to the second option, include only the forums with no starter posts. That way, any threads that occurred in the spring semester won't get copied over to your new course. So you don't have to go back in and clean up or delete any old posts. All the other default settings should be okay. Once you're done selecting what you want to copy, go ahead and click Submit. And this could take a few minutes, depending on how much content is being copied over. But the nice thing about this new system is you'll get an email confirming that the copy is complete. You can also still work in the summer course while the copy is happening, and it will update you on a status. So right now I'm in the summer section, and I can see that it's running. Once it's complete, the status will change to complete. So again, it'll take a few minutes to finish. One thing, and I'll show you the logs once it's complete, you will want to take a look at the logs to see if there are any errors. In the logs, it'll tell you whether or not something was copied. Warnings, I wouldn't be so concerned about. It just may rename items if there's a unsupported character in the title of the file and things like that. But the log is really useful in determining, to make sure that everything came over okay. And you'll see in the new course, you may find some duplicate menu items. With the course copy in this version of WebCampus, it does not overwrite existing content in the new course, so you may have to do some cleanup. I've seen that as long as the menu items are named the same, it'll replace what's in that new course. So right here you see the status change to complete in the yellow bar. And if I click here, I can view the log. Crossing my fingers, there's no errors. So I did one this morning. This is the one I did just now. Okay, no errors. So these red ones are what you will want to pay attention to. Fatal errors or errors. So you'll see here, these are the new menu items that came over. So there was a learning module in my old course. It actually should have transferred. I didn't call it learning module. I had a let's get started in my, and it brought over all the stuff I had, and let's get started. So as long as the item is named the same, it'll put the content in the right place.
And then you would just update the syllabus
Correct.
and the date.
Yeah. And then you can reorder these items the same way. I mean, normally you just click, drag, move this up. If say, so in my original course I had chapter modules and exams, and there's nothing in here. There shouldn't be. Just whatever was in the template, I can just delete this item.
Mm-hmm.
A few things you want to check is you want to switch to student view after the copy is complete, and then just go through your content to make sure everything came over okay. It'll tell you if you have any errors or things like that. I can't. Does anyone have any questions about course copies at the moment? So Wenger had a question. Are students required to use WebCampus? No, we don't have a requirement. You as the instructor can determine whether or not they will use it, so it's completely up to you. Do they prefer WebCampus to email communication? I'm not sure.
That's a good question, and typically it's best to keep the email internal. And it really comes down to the instructor's preference in this regard as to whether or not the instructor is going to check WebCampus. Some instructors really want to not have student email come directly to their own Rebel Mail account. So it comes down to a real preference kind of situation there. You can have either one in this new WebCampus.
And you can put that in your syllabus and let your students know what your preference is. Okay. So that finished course copy. The other tool, I don't know if some of you have used this before, it's called the date management tool. So again, under the control panel on the left, there's course tools. And then listed here is date management. If you do not see date management here, let me show you real quick how to enable that tool. So it's under customization and tool availability. And this should be alphabetically listed. So you want to see if this box is checked. If it's not checked, you can simply check it, and then it'll appear here under course tool. So what the date management tool does is it lets you view any dates that you have set on items, all items in your course in one window. So instead of going to chapter modules, editing a test to change the dates, and then having to go to each individual module, you can use this tool to view everything in one list.
That's great.
So there are different options. So, but I recommend using list all dates for review. So you can advance dates automatically based on like the current start date. So it'll automatically adjust based on the number of difference in days. I have not played around with this, so you're kind of at the mercy of WebCampus if you put in a date as to when it changes your due date. Again, same for use term info and then shift all dates by the number of days. You want to count how many days difference your due dates are between summer and spring. By all means, you could try it, but this is probably the easiest way to change your dates. So I will select list all dates for review and hit start. And it'll run through a progress. So it'll take, depending on how many due dates or availability dates you have, it'll take a few seconds. Shouldn't be more than a minute until it reaches 100%. So it's compiling a list of all the due dates you have in your course. The nice thing about this tool as well is it'll send you an email. It'll send you an email once the the date management process is done, and it'll actually send you a copy of this grid that's on this next page. So you'll have each item that has a due date or an availability date, plus the dates listed. So you could use that, print out that email, hand replace what the dates are, and then just go through this list. So some of the options you have in this date management review is you can filter what items you can see. So if you don't want to see everything that has a due date yet, you can check select tests. I want to focus on adjusting the dates for my test. So it'll filter out just any items that are tests. To change the dates, in the far right-hand corner or far right of the item, you'll see this little pencil icon. You just click on it, and then you set your new dates by either selecting it or you can just simply type it in this box. So let me change one real quick to show you what it looks like. Another date. It should be after. Oh, this is the availability start. When do I want it to open? And then you just click done. And what you want to make sure you do after you modify the date is check this green box. This little arrow here is an undo. So if you put the wrong dates and you want to revert back to the original date, you can just hit cancel. So I'll click the checkbox, and then I have a status update. So you do have to do it one item at a time, but being able to do it in one single window is probably easier than having to go through each item in the course. Any questions on the date management tool?
Well, that is huge. That is a huge time saving.
There, let's see. We just, vendor asked when WebCampus is introduced to UNLV, and do we plan to switch?
So Victor, Alicia, how about I respond to those questions that aren't really specifically relevant to the presentation here. I'll respond to those later if that's okay. I'm glad to give you, send you my email and we can talk about those kind of things.
Okay. So that takes care of the date management tool. You can always hit refresh on this screen. So if you see that your change wasn't made, you can hit refresh up here in the upper right-hand corner and then see the dates change. So again, the only items that appear in this list is anything that has a due date set already or an availability date. So it could be content as well. So if you set date restrictions on, say, a chapter module, it'll actually appear in this list. That's all I had as far as a live demo. So let me turn it back over to. I think I have one more slide left.
Everybody see that? Everybody see the slide?
Yeah, invisible.
Great, thank you, Kevin.
So Sue pasted some of the URLs into the chat window. So these are all how to do the items that I demoed. One other page that I would recommend you visit is the known issue page on our help site. It lets you know what are some of the known issues that is happening in WebCampus and some workarounds as well. And if you run into any problems with WebCampus, we're here to help. I have public service interns that are employed specifically for WebCampus support. So there's someone on the help desk between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. that knows WebCampus. So these are just our web forms, so you can submit a request, you can give us a call, and then you can also look at other tip sheets on our help page. Oh, I have a question. Have any of you used the course copy and date management tool before, and what are your thoughts on that?
I've used the course copy before, but never used the date management tool.
Everyone's microphones are turned on again, so you're welcome to speak up.
Another program.
So hopefully the date management tool will help all of you. Yes. Okay. So I'll move it on to Sheila.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Yvette.
You're welcome.
Our second presenter is Dr. Sheila Bach. And I asked Sheila to participate in this webinar because I know she is experienced and superb at keeping on top of her course content, getting a lot of feedback from students, collaborating with her colleagues. So she and I have worked together several years as we have developed and refined IDS courses. So welcome, Sheila.
Thank you. I'm very excited to use the date management tool. It's going to save me a lot of time just preparing for this next semester. All right, so for my portion of this presentation on how to prepare for a new semester, I'm going to be drawing on my experiences teaching one class that I've had the opportunity to teach both in person several times and online, right? So, you know, I'm relatively new to the world of online teaching, and so it's kind of been a learning process. And so I kind of want to communicate some of the steps of that process that I've gone through to you guys to see if they mesh with any of your experiences as well. So just to provide some basic context before I move on, I have several goals for what I want students to learn in IDS 240 or Interdisciplinary Studies 240. These are kind of condensed down here on this slide, but I want students to be able to recognize and become familiar with a range of different research methods, one. And second, I want students to be able to use what they learn in this class as they develop their own research project ideas that they are then going to carry out in the next two of the core courses for the Interdisciplinary Studies major. All right. So, because I had taught the class already in person, I had a lot of materials to work with and build on when I put the online version of the class together for the very first time, right, including lectures and reading assignments that introduce students to the different research methods covered in class. Okay. And these lectures and reading assignments transferred over fairly easily into the online format. Right. So I assigned the same readings and recorded my lectures with the help of the folks at the Office of Online Education during the semester before I taught it for the first time. And then when I was teaching this class in person, I would also take my students on multiple trips to the library here at UNLV, that the librarians could talk to them about good strategies for using the library databases to search for relevant sources in their research. And I would also dedicate at least one class period to visiting the special collections, so the students would be able to see what archival materials were available there. And once again, working with the folks over the Office of Online Education here, I was able to create videos with Kate Wintrell, who's our subject librarian, and Sue Kim Chung, the special collections librarian, that helped stimulate some of these visits to the library. And I found them to be really helpful in my online courses. And Kate Wintrell, our subject librarian, also put together a research guide specifically for the students in my class that they could link to from the course website. And that's been really instrumental in helping them in the research process. So there were some elements of my in-person version of the class that did not transfer over so easily there. So, for example, when I teach, when I teach in the classroom, I dedicate quite a bit of class time to discussions and more interactive activities to complement the course content that I'm presenting in the lectures. And I find that these discussions and activities serve several purposes, and I have them up here on this slide. So, because interaction is such an important component of my teaching in person, I kind of turn to the discussion forums as one way of kind of keeping that interactive component in my online classes. Trying to simulate as best I could the discussions I would have in the physical classroom. And to a certain extent, these discussions worked well. Right? So, for example, I found that students benefited greatly as they were able to share their ideas and progress and receive feedback both from me and one another in these discussion forums. And also set a good kind of collaborative tone for the class in general, which is something that I really try to set forward in teaching, especially these types of classes. But at the same time, I quickly realized that these discussions did not function to help me assess how well the students were understanding the course content in the ways that they did in the in-class discussion. So over the course of several semesters now keeping this class online, I've developed different strategies for getting a better sense of how well students are understanding the course materials and the assignment guidelines before I'm actually grading them. So a couple of these are pretty basic, but I'm putting them up here because I didn't think to implement them the first time I taught online. So I actually, built in written reminders in the course content or in the lectures, just a reminder that they can contact me if they have any questions about the course content, and that I understand the concepts might be, complicated and that they may not get it just by viewing the course content. And so I encourage them to check in with me kind of periodically throughout the semester. I also added a separate discussion forum, and I consistently remind them about its existence throughout the semester, and I have the text for that up on this slide that I just always cut and paste into each new class. And so this is kind of where the miscellaneous questions happen. And I think that I make this forum public so that students can see that their quote-unquote stupid little questions are actually shared by others, right? And that I'm going to respond to them and take them seriously in this public format. All right. I also hold in-person office hours on campus, and then for students whose schedules don't work to come into campus at the same time that I'm there, or for people who live out of town, I also hold these office hours via Skype. But I find that it's really important to give students a chance to interact with me face-to-face. This semester, because for this class that I teach, I have a relatively small class size, and so it's about 20 students. I've actually made it a requirement for the first time in my syllabus for the students to meet with me at least once during the semester to check in face-to-face. And it's worked really well given the goals for the class. And so I definitely plan on doing this again and kind of extending it to other classes that I teach for the IDS major. So I find it's often easier to address students' questions and concerns more effectively, talking it through than writing it out via email. And it also reminds them that I'm a person and not some disembodied entity somewhere online. So, once they met with me for the first time and you have that response that, oh, this is actually really helpful, then they're more likely to reach out to me again. I should go back as well. So another thing that I've done since I taught the class for the first time is that I started working with the instructional designers to integrate kind of ungraded check-in quizzes and activities so that the students can, check on their own whether or not they were getting it. And so the people at the Office of Online Education have done a really good job in putting together kind of interactive quizzes or activities to, for example, identify flawed survey questions, which was something that was really helpful in helping students to be able to recognize double-barreled questions, for example. Or they helped me put together an activity of identifying scholarly versus non-scholarly articles, which is kind of a big thing that I want them to take away from this class. Right. So I've taught this course several times online at this point, and I found that preparation for a new semester occurs well before the couple of weeks prior to the beginning of the semester, even when I've taught it before. And this is kind of a different mindset than when I'm teaching in person, right? Because when you're teaching in person, especially if you've taught the class before, there's room during the course of the semester to kind of tweak it as you're going, right? In ways that it's less flexible for online courses. So, building course content takes time, and whereas in-person classes you can make changes as you go, implementing changes in online courses can't take place instantaneously. You kind of have to go through these different stages. So while the content doesn't change much in this class now from semester to semester, I do still make minor adjustments each time I teach it. So, I try to be responsive to the constructive feedback and the student evaluations at the end of each semester. And when I'm teaching an online course, I know I'm going to be teaching again. I'm constantly thinking of ways that it might be tweaked and improved upon for the future semester. And then I actually implement those changes while it's still fresh in my mind, and send it off to Sue and say, can you please update this content kind of in the master course so that the next semester I'm teaching it is already all fixed. So, for example, after grading an assignment, I find that several students are making the same types of mistakes. I'm going to take note of that and then revise the relevant course content and revise the relevant lecture for the next semester, finding ways to reword or emphasize visually, underline, bold, make the font bigger, incorporate kind of an image to really kind of make an idea pop out, emphasize what I want the students to understand. So that way the students are less likely to make the same mistakes in the next semester. Right? So I'm kind of constantly trying to find ways of developing it. And this is actually the thought process that led to the development of the interactive activities I referenced on the previous slide. So that's just a very quick overview of some of the strategies that I use in planning to teach the class again in future semesters. But I'm also curious to hear from you, see if you have any tips or best practices that you've developed for keeping your course activities and content up to date.
Yeah, we can hear you. Dr. Spredler, is that you?
Follow up.
Is that?
How do you listen?
Okay, while we're waiting for somebody, I actually was reminded of two different tips that I use in my class that I think is relevant. I don't know if everybody can hear me or not, but something that I do pretty generally in my course is not only have a place for students to give me feedback at the end of the semester, course evaluations at the very end. I also have course module survey. So at the end of every survey, I give them an opportunity to give me feedback on that module. So, if a student is at the very end of the semester, they're just focused on taking their final, they're probably not likely to give me authentic, really good feedback about what happened in module 1, for example. So I try to have get feedback from them at the end of every module, and then based upon that feedback, I go back in and I update that module and for the coming semester. And that's been really helpful because in the past, the course evaluations has either poor participation, or they really can't give me feedback about something that happened there at the very beginning of the class. So those module level surveys. And the other tip that I've learned from someone else is to have a frequently asked questions survey. I'm sorry, frequently asked questions discussion forum. And so I get the same question every semester about policy or procedure or something like that. And so I just started keeping them in the discussion forum from semester to semester. So if 5 students asked me last semester the same question, I go ahead and I answer that question at the very beginning of the next semester. So that frequently asked questions just keeps getting added to. Those were my 2. Anybody else have any good tips?
Or ideas that you would like to implement? I haven't had the chance to yet. I'm still learning.
Me too.
So,
I don't see any, but if anybody has any tips, yeah, we'd sure love to hear them.
and
Well, wonderful. Sheila, thank you very much. And Michael, thank you for your tips about the module survey and the FAQ. Very, very helpful. So now our final presenter is Michael Wilder. Michael teaches online courses for the School of Journalism and Media Studies here at UNLV, and he is also our online education instructional designer coordinator. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and get started. It was wonderful to hear some of the cool tips that from both Yvette and Sheila. Thank you so much. And, I'm going to lean more towards the kind of the pedagogical approach of how do you prepare best practices really for making a connection with your students most of all. As probably you've experienced in online education, sometimes it feels like you're really just communicating with a computer, or it's just kind of a human-to-computer interaction. And what the research shows is that that if there isn't that human-to-human interaction, that students do tend to become unmotivated. That they really need that camaraderie, that community of learning, in order to continue to remain in courses. And this is well documented. So it really is important that we begin to develop a connection with our students, especially the student-to-teacher connection. So as you can see here, that isolation has, in one study, isolation is possibly the hardest challenge to face with our students. How do we make it so that they don't feel isolated? So that's a really big one. Try to get over. Also, if you I'm sure everyone's seen this one before, the 7 principles of good practice in undergraduate education, the Chickering and Gamson. Number 1 being good practice encourages student-to-faculty contact. And this was developed originally for face-to-face instruction. And for the most part, good practice in a face-to-face course is pretty much going to be good practice in an online course. Naturally, there are differences, and so we've got to not only apply best practices that are universal, but also apply best practices that are specific to online education. But the notion that there needs to be a good student-to-instructor contact is universal and something that we should build in. And I'm going to add in real quickly that there is a common misconception that online education is like a wind-up clock, that you create your course and you wind it up and you set it down and you check in at the beginning of the semester. Everything seems fine. You come back at the end of the semester to see what students' grades are, and you assign them a grade. And really, that's a major misconception, that it isn't a wind-up clock. It does require you as an educator to be in the class, to be present, to be a participant all the way through the course. So I just wanted to dispel that myth if I could. So there has also been some studies as far as the notion of swift trust. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of this. I just heard about it last semester, about this research into swift trust. And what the research shows in this case, that the first few weeks of a course or any kind of group getting together is crucial for establishing trust between all the participants. If you think about it, when you enter into any kind of group, you probably enter that group at the very start, providing that trust, assuming that everyone is going to be there and is trustworthy. But what happens is, if in those first 2 weeks, that first impression, if it seems like someone is disorganized or not available, that really does make a disadvantage towards establishing trust down the line. Those first 2 weeks are really crucial to try to establish trust. And I would even go so far as to say you need to establish trust before the course starts. I'm going to talk a little bit quickly about some techniques, and most of you have seen these before. I know I'm preaching to the choir when I look at the list of participants today. Most of you use these techniques, but I'll run through these and hope that you have some suggestions for us also at the very end. So something that I do every semester when I'm teaching is 2 weeks before the start of the semester, I send out an email directly to the students. I get that email from the registrar. It's very easy. You can log into my UNLV. You can get a list of their email addresses. And I send out an email that I've crafted that I feel is warm and sincere, and it indicates that I'm a human being. I introduce myself and the course and all of the prerequisites, all the materials they might need in advance. I also talk about how they can contact me. And what this does is it begins that process of reaching out. So I'm not going to wait till the first week, or in really bad cases till the second week, before I introduce myself, before I introduce the course to the student. I'm going to start before they even get there. So, and one way that I can do that is by sending them an email directly. So maybe if they don't have access to my course yet, they still get an email in advance. I can even give them homework. Okay, so I can give them homework in advance. That really says, okay, well, they know they've got to get working if they get homework before the class even starts. Another way is by offering a video at the very beginning of the class, and really to have that ready to go before the students get there. By the way, everybody I hope knows that students get access to their course 1 week prior to the start of the semester. It used to be 2 weeks, but it is now 1 week prior to the semester. So they'll be in there, they'll be looking around, and you're setting up a situation whether to trust you, to know whether you're on top of things that week before, not just the week of. So it's real important that that week before you're ready to go, everything's in there, and you're ready for the semester. So one thing that I know that Dr. Gulliver has provided, here's an example, and Dr. Gulliver is here today, so thank you for attending. He's provided an introductory video. It just talks a little bit about himself. I heard Dr. Bach talk about how she introduces herself as well, so that we can see that the instructor is a human being. We're not just a computer. We're not away. We haven't just turned on the clock and walked away. No, we really are human beings here. We are instructors. We're trained professionals. The course is dependent upon having real educators, real teachers here involved in the class. So here's a way you can have an introductory video. Serves a number of different purposes. One, that it shows that we are alive human beings and we're really here as participants. It also provides an opportunity to, again, introduce the course itself, talk about some of the deadlines that might be coming up, talk about how students can be prepared, and it can also give a tour of the course itself. That is also very important, that you give your students some idea as to how the course is organized. Is it organized in modules? Is it organized in folders? What are the due dates? Where should they look for things? Every course is unique, and every course is going to need some sort of explanation into how the course works. So that introductory video becomes really important to the class. By the way, I wanted you to know that it doesn't have to have high production value. You don't have to go into our studio. We have a studio here, yes, you can certainly use that. But you can also just use a webcam and YouTube or something like that. To show you in your own home or in your yard or on vacation or something like that, that shows a little bit of your life. It shows that, again, you're a real person, not just in a professional studio. Something else that I do is and we build these into online education courses a introductory discussion forum for students to introduce themselves. That's also important for faculty. I've gone into several courses where I've seen that the instructor was never present in the introductory discussion. And that kind of, the students, again, feel like, oh, where is this person? Are they participating? Or the students may put in their heart and soul into providing their own introduction, and then there is never any kind of feedback to know that anybody read it. And so, so it's real important, one, that faculty should be the first one. The instructor should be the first one to post their self-introduction. And it doesn't have to be just their vita. It doesn't have to be just their courses. But it can certainly talk about their areas of interest, their research. Talk a little bit about yourself as a human being. I mean, that's a good place for it. Something else I found that's really valuable is to respond to students when they describe themselves, when they introduce themselves. Talk about, say, hey, great, thanks, welcome to the class. I'm also interested in that too. Something like that, so that the students feel like you actually were there in the discussion forum also, and that you paid attention to who they were as human beings also. I also recommend that you make those introductory discussions gradable and mandatory. Otherwise, students feel like, why should I bother? So, also, this is a great opportunity to model. I don't want to lose this point here. If you want good discussion posts, sometimes you need to model what those discussion posts look like. So if you want students to say something beyond just I agree or good job, then you may have to post discussion comments and responses that are substantive as well. So they're going to look at your discussion replies and your posts and as a model for how they should be writing them. So I highly recommend that you model them. Dr. Howard Reingold, I don't know if you're familiar with him, he had some research in which he said that you have to prime the pump. So you're going to be priming the pump as far as getting students to produce in the discussion forum. If nobody's in there starting it up, probably they won't post either. But in those first few weeks, those first couple weeks, if you're in there very actively, that's going to set up a model for students later that they will follow. So 3 weeks of hard work in the discussion posts will probably correspond to 15 weeks worth of really good substantive posts.
Can I add something
Sure.
to that? So I know that I have colleagues who like the idea of being an active participant in the discussion post, but realistically, it takes a long time to write substantive responses to every individual post. And so one of the strategies that I use, I know a lot of other people use, is to do a substantive post to the whole forum, right? And identify recurring themes, point out specific people who did a particularly good job of bringing up point to show that you are engaged, but in a much more time-effective way, because the discussions can take a whole day to respond to if you let it. And so that's one way of, building that connection, but also preserving your own mental energy as well.
That's a great point and a great strategy. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. And you also bring up something else, that if the instructor is the first to respond every time, what ends up happening is that the students end up saying, well, the instructor is going to say it. The instructor is going to comment. And so generally what I do is I wait several days. If the discussion post is due on Monday, I'm going to wait till Wednesday or Thursday or maybe Friday before I jump in and say something, or maybe towards the end of when it's due. That gives it an opportunity for students to have to say something. If I jump in immediately and say and respond, the students will say, well, the instructor is going to comment. Why should I? Dr. Gulliver here also, I think everyone can see in the chat windows, is fine to helpful to have students assigned to interview and introduce each other. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of curious, does that work well, Dr. Gulliver? That's been working for you?
Yeah, actually it has, and the reason I started doing it was I was having trouble getting the students engaged with each other.
Right.
And by the way, I'm not a doctor.
Well, Professor Gulliver? Thank you.
Yeah, I just don't want to take any credit.
I understand. Thank you. Well, that's great, and definitely I'll see if I can try that to have students interview each other. That would be great. All right, I'm going to move on. Something else that that has been valuable as far as giving students an opportunity to know a little bit more about me is by having some sort of website or a web page somewhere that gives a little bit more detail. I try not to clobber them too much in the course. I try not to clobber them with my resume, my vita. In most cases, students want to know who I am as a human being. And they don't really want to know my whole life history, to be honest. But they want to know that that information is there. And that's important. So I do list that information. I also, in that area, I list ways to contact me, all of the different ways they can contact me. I do provide ways they can contact me in chat. I provide ways they can contact me through the phone. I'm actually using Google Voice, and so not only can they contact me through my office phone number, they can also contact me through my cell phone. I know a lot of instructors are cautious about giving out their cell phone number, and so what you can do is get what's called a Google Voice account, and it's kind of like an alias for your cell phone. So you basically have this alias phone number that students can call. You can look and see who it is, and you can not answer or you can answer, and you can essentially block people. You can do all kinds of things you couldn't do with your normal phone. So I give out my Google Voice number, and the students can have at it. And I find that they text me when they're in an emergency situation, which I think works very well, honestly. And they can also send me email. They can contact me through chat or a variety of different social media avenues. I also provide a map so that if they want to visit me, I do hold office hours so they can come and visit me. I provide chocolate for anyone that stops by. Often I will grab them if they arrive here and they talk to me in person. Often what I'll do is I'll pull out a microphone and I'll start to interview them, and I'll ask them questions about how they're engaging in the class, and then I'll post it as a podcast in the class later. So that's just another way to get students involved and to kind of showcase them as I can. Rex says that he also uses Google Voice. I found it very, very valuable. You might want to take a look at it. All right, something else that I do is I create module videos. So not just an introductory video like Professor Gulliver was using. That's very valuable to have that introductory video. But also at the start of every module, I will continue to show that I'm engaged, that I'm a human being, that I'm really here by having a module by module video that talks about some of the difficulties the students may have had in the past, that may just talk about what's coming up, to warn them about something that they may have trouble with. So I not only have the introductory video, I also have the module by module series of videos as well, and those are all kind of timely, not just recorded well in advance. And something else that I didn't mention this in my office hours, but something I do before the start of the semester that you might find useful is what I do is I actually offer students to meet me for coffee at Einstein's Bagels across the street or Starbucks or something like that. And I say anybody that wants to meet with me can meet me there. I buy them coffee if they want to. And I do that actually at the beginning, in the middle, and the end of the semester. And what's funny is that, at first you might go, oh my gosh, if you're meeting with them for coffee, how much money is that going to cost? I'll tell you, every semester, although I put that offer out there, maybe 2 students take me up on it. They are all very busy, and they love the opportunity to say, okay, I could meet my instructor if I wanted to, but they rarely do. But that fact that I put that out there always ends up being mentioned later on in course evaluations or reflective journals about the class. They always mention that the instructor was there and ready to meet with them. Now again, they may not take me up on it, but they always appreciate it. And lastly, this isn't something that is part of preparation. It's something that I suggest that should occur at the beginning or during every course. And that is that if you see somebody that's falling behind, or they haven't entered the class in the first week of the semester, or they haven't done their assignments, or they're not participating in the discussion forum, I pick up the phone and I give them a call. And I know that may sound kind of odd in this age of chat and email, but there's nothing that says that you're present and you're there by getting a phone call from your instructor that's actually calling you on whether or not you're going to be doing your work. And I've had more students go from being failing students to A and B students by me contacting them and encouraging them than anything else. Once they see, oh, there really is somebody out there paying attention to my success, they completely turn around. And this happens again and again every semester. Something else, before I go to the last screen here, something else that I also want to mention is that you will receive emails from students, phone calls from students that seem like that you've answered the question elsewhere, and you go, why are they bothering me again and again with this series of questions? Typically, you get one or two students in every class that really seems to need a lot of help. And what I believe is happening is it's not that they really need help on a specific question. They're just checking to see if you're still there. They may ask you silly questions that you've written in the syllabus, that you've posted in announcements. You're going to get students that seem to just be asking you questions all the time. What they're doing is testing to see if you really are a participant and you're really there. So I've heard a frustration from faculty that said, gosh, what's wrong with these students? Why aren't they reading the syllabus? They are, but what's happening is that they need the confidence of knowing that you're there for them. So when they call or they send email, look past what is their question. Look at what their motives are. Their motives are to test and see if you're really available and can you be there for them when they need you. That helps build their self-confidence later. All right. Thank you for listening to me and to everyone else. Are there any tips, any other tips that you have for preparing or engaging with students, nurturing their success in an online course? And I'll throw this out also to our other presenters as well.
I actually teach an online course. One thing I have is a syllabus quiz. And that serves two purposes. One is making sure I highlight important things in the syllabus and that they're reading my syllabus. So some of the questions I have is, where would you find debates in my course? How many points is something worth? That sort of thing. The other purpose it serves is giving them a chance to test out the test tool. So they take a test that doesn't really affect their grade. I don't really give them points for the syllabus quiz, but all of my students have to complete it to see the module. But as soon as they're done completing the quiz, they'll be able to access it.
Wow, that's great. Anybody else? Participants out there? Professor Gulliver, Dr. Grove, Dr. Strudler, anybody out there that has any tips for how to prepare for the semester? All right, we'll go ahead and wrap up. If there are just any other questions in general in regards to teaching online, preparing for the semester, I'll give you another opportunity to chat with us. Thank you, Dr. Strudler. Thank you for attending. Lastly, we have a slide here with feedback. If you could give us some feedback, it's anonymous. Just ask a few questions. We'd love to get your opinions. Let us know how we could improve and what other kind of topics we could cover. You can click on the link that Sue has provided there. Sorry, Sue, if I've co-opted you here.
Oh, that's all right. You're on a roll, Michael. I sincerely want to thank you and Sheila and Yvette. You guys put together a fabulous presentation. You covered a lot of extremely valuable information. So I think we're going to have a lot of hits on this in our webinar archive. So thank you. So
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So in fact, I'm going to click the button and turn off recording now. So thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.